I cautiously stepped through the creaky front door of the old Victorian house, my heart pounding in my chest. The faint smell of mildew and decay filled the air, making me question my decision to book this Airbnb. The host had boasted about its historic charm, but now I wondered if there was something more sinister lurking within these walls. As I explored the dimly lit hallway, the floorboards groaned beneath my feet. Every step echoed through the empty house, amplifying the sense of unease that had settled upon me. The walls were adorned with faded wallpaper, peeling away to reveal the secrets of the past. It was as if the house itself was trying to shed its troubled history. My room was on the second floor, at the end of a long corridor. The door creaked open, revealing a small, musty space. I dropped my bag on the bed and glanced around, feeling a chill crawl up my spine. There was an old mirror on the wall, its glass cracked and tarnished. As I caught my reflection, a shiver ran down my spine. It felt as though the mirror held a hidden darkness, a secret it yearned to share. Night fell, and darkness enveloped the house like a thick blanket. I lay in bed, the silence broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl outside. Sleep eluded me as my mind raced with disturbing thoughts. Just as I was about to doze off, a low whisper reached my ears. My eyes flew open, and my heart leaped into my throat. I strained to listen, but the whispering had ceased. Was it just my imagination playing tricks on me? I dismissed the thought and closed my eyes, trying to regain control over my racing mind. But then, a scratching sound echoed through the walls, as if someone or something was desperately trying to escape its confines. Fear gnawed at my insides, urging me to investigate. Reluctantly, I climbed out of bed and followed the sound to the attic. The narrow staircase creaked beneath my weight as I ascended, each step sending a jolt of dread through my veins. The attic was dimly lit, the moon casting eerie shadows through the small, dusty windows. It was there, in the far corner, that I saw it, a worn-out wooden trunk. My heart thudded in my chest as I approached the trunk, its hinges rusted and caked with grime. With trembling hands, I lifted the lid. Inside, a putrid stench wafted out, making me gag. I held my breath and peered inside, my eyes widening in horror. The trunk was filled with yellowed photographs, pictures of people, their faces distorted and contorted with anguish. Some were chained, others had eyes gouged out. It was a gallery of suffering. As I tried to comprehend the horrifying discovery, a sudden gust of wind slammed the attic window shut. The room plunged into darkness, and a haunting laughter echoed through the air. Panic gripped me, and I fumbled for my phone, desperate for a glimmer of light. The screen flickered to life, casting a weak glow around me. In that faint illumination, I caught a glimpse of movement in the corner of my eye. Shadows danced across the room, twisting and contorting into grotesque forms. The air grew thick with malevolence, and I could feel a presence closing in on me. I stumbled backward, tripping over an old trunk, and crashed to the floor. I stumbled down the attic stairs, my heart racing and my breath coming in ragged gasps. The darkness seemed to close in around me, suffocating and oppressive. The house itself felt alive, its ancient bones groaning with malice. I reached the second floor landing, my legs trembling beneath me. But as I turned to make my escape, the door to my room slammed shut with a thunderous bang. My blood ran cold as I realized I was trapped. The air grew thick with an unseen presence, as if the very walls were watching me. In a panic, I scanned the hallway for any possible means of escape. A window at the far end caught my eye, its glass cracked but beckoning. I sprinted towards it, praying that it would provide a way out of this nightmare. But just as I reached the window, a chilling gust of wind swept through the corridor, extinguishing the feeble flame of hope within me. The walls seemed to twist and contort, their once solid surfaces warping into grotesque shapes. I stumbled back, my mind reeling with terror. A voice, cold and filled with menace, sliced through the air. "You can't leave," it whispered, the words slithering into my ears like venomous serpents. "You're mine now." Desperation fueled my actions as I turned and sprinted in the opposite direction. I needed to find another way out, any way to escape this house of horrors. The shadows writhed and danced around me, mocking my feeble attempts at freedom. I reached a flight of stairs leading to the first floor, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum. With every step I took, the house seemed to tighten its grip on my soul. The walls whispered, their voices a symphony of madness that threatened to drive me to the edge of sanity. Suddenly, a door swung open before me, revealing a room bathed in an eerie glow. A sense of foreboding washed over me, but I had no other choice. I stepped inside, the door slamming shut behind me, sealing my fate. The room was filled with macabre artifacts, a collection of masks, each one more twisted and horrifying than the last. Their vacant eyes seemed to follow me, and I felt the weight of their gaze bearing down on me. I stumbled back, the realization dawning upon me that these masks held the tormented souls of the house's previous victims. A chilling wind blew through the room, extinguishing the last vestiges of light. In the darkness, I heard a voice, soft and agonized, calling my name. Fear froze me in place as icy fingers brushed against my skin, sending a shiver down my spine. I knew then that escape was futile. The house had claimed me as its own, a permanent resident in its chamber of horrors. I was trapped in a nightmare from which there was no waking. And so, dear listener, heed my warning. Be cautious of the Airbnb you choose, for behind the picturesque facade may lie a world of darkness and despair. Some doors should never be opened, and some nightmares should never be lived. May you never stumble upon the house that holds your soul captive, for the price of curiosity may be higher than you could ever imagine. I nervously tapped my fingers on the steering wheel as I made my way through the bustling streets of New York City. I had booked an Airbnb for the weekend, a sleek, modern house nestled in a quiet corner of the city. The pictures online showcased its pristine interiors and promised a luxurious experience. Little did I know, this weekend getaway would turn into a nightmare I could never forget. As I pulled up to the address, my eyes widened in awe. The house was even more breathtaking in person. Its sleek glass walls reflected the city lights, making it appear ethereal amidst the concrete jungle. I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement mixed with apprehension. The host, a man named Mr. Blackwood, greeted me at the door. He had a tall, slender frame and a cold, distant look in his eyes that sent shivers down my spine. "Welcome," he murmured, his voice barely audible. He handed me the keys and disappeared into the shadows. Unease settled in as I stepped inside. The house was eerily quiet, and a cold draft cut through the air. The living room, adorned with minimalist furniture, seemed almost too perfect. A peculiar painting hung on the wall, a faceless figure that seemed to watch me as I moved. I tried to shake off my unease and unpacked my bags. But as the night descended, so did the eerie atmosphere. Unsettling whispers echoed through the walls, and strange shadows danced in the corners of my vision. I felt a constant presence lurking just beyond my senses, an unseen force that filled the air with malevolence. Determined to dismiss my growing paranoia, I decided to explore the house. The corridor stretched like a maze, leading to rooms that seemed devoid of life. In one of the bedrooms, I discovered a dusty old photograph. It depicted a group of people, their faces twisted in anguish. Curiosity turned to dread when I realized the faces in the photograph bore a striking resemblance to the faceless figure in the painting downstairs. Nightfall came, and I found myself unable to sleep. The sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway, growing louder with each passing minute. Fear gripped me, and I hid under the covers, my heart pounding in my chest. The door creaked open, and I held my breath, paralyzed with terror. But instead of an intruder, I saw the figure from the painting standing in the doorway, a hollow shell of a person, devoid of any humanity. Trembling, I mustered the courage to ask, "Who are you?" The figure approached, its wispy voice barely audible. "We are the forgotten ones, trapped in this house. We are the victims of its dark secrets." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. The house had a sinister past, and its victims were condemned to haunt its halls forever. I had unwittingly stepped into their world, a world of horror and despair. Days turned into a blur as I desperately sought a way to escape. But the house seemed to conspire against me, its rooms shifting and doors leading to dead ends. I was trapped, just like the restless spirits that dwelled within. As I write this account, I can hear their anguished whispers growing louder. They hunger for release, for someone to break the cycle of torment. I can only hope that my words serve as a warning to those who dare to stay in that accursed house. If you ever find yourself tempted by the allure of a luxurious Airbnb in New York City, remember my story. Stay away from the house with glass walls that reflect a twisted reality. For within its beautiful facade lies a darkness that can consume even the bravest of souls. It was a cold and rainy evening when I arrived at the Airbnb house in Manchester. The sleek and modern architecture of the place impressed me as I stepped inside. The host had described it as a luxury retreat, but there was something unsettling about the atmosphere. As I settled into the house, strange things started happening. Doors would creak open on their own, and I could hear faint whispers echoing through the rooms. At first, I dismissed it as my imagination, but the unsettling feeling lingered. I couldn't shake off the sense that I was being watched. One night, as I lay in bed, I heard footsteps outside my room. My heart raced, and I clenched my fists in fear. The footsteps grew louder, slowly approaching my door. I held my breath, hoping it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But then, the door handle began to turn. My heart pounded in my chest as the door creaked open. I could make out a shadowy figure standing in the doorway, but the dim lighting made it impossible to identify who or what it was. Frozen with fear, I watched as the figure slowly approached my bed. Its presence felt malevolent, as if it harbored a deep-seated anger. Just as the figure reached the edge of my bed, I mustered the courage to scream. The sound echoed through the house, but the figure disappeared into thin air. I was left trembling, the cold sweat soaking my sheets. The following day, I contacted the host to express my concerns. They seemed surprised and assured me that the house was safe. But the incidents didn't stop. In fact, they became more frequent and intense. Objects would fly off the shelves, and the whispers grew louder and more sinister. One evening, I decided to explore the house in search of answers. I found a hidden door in the basement, leading to a secret room. Inside, I discovered a collection of old photographs, each depicting the previous guests of the house. Their faces were twisted in terror, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread wash over me. As I examined the pictures, a gust of wind slammed the door shut, trapping me in the secret room. Panic consumed me as I pounded on the door, desperate for escape. The whispers returned, this time more menacing than ever before. It felt as if the house itself was taunting me, relishing in my fear. Hours passed, and just as I was losing hope, the door swung open. I stumbled out, my body trembling and my mind in disarray. I knew I couldn't stay in that house any longer. It had become a twisted nightmare, a place where malevolent forces lurked in the shadows. I packed my belongings and left the Airbnb, vowing never to return. The experience had left an indelible mark on my soul, and I couldn't erase the memory of the haunting whispers and the dark figure that had visited me in the dead of night. To this day, I can't help but wonder about the secrets that house holds. What kind of malevolence resides within its walls? And how many unsuspecting guests have fallen victim to its dark presence?